Good evening, folks. Thank you all for showing up today. I know there's a lot of folks who have come in just by me sending the invite. I appreciate all of you coming here. I'll start with a quick introduction. My name is Kitson. I've been in CSA chapter for quite some time. I don't recollect how many years, but been there for a while. I serve as one of the board of directors in CSA chapter, the Triangle chapter. I work for Savient in the capacity of a director for professional services. I've been in cybersecurity field for quite some time. My main focus is IAM. We'll talk a little bit about IAM today. I hope you will learn something new today. And I would let Ravi introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. This is the first time doing this talk, so thank you for this opportunity. But I'm Ravi Vupuluri. I'm based out of DC. I'm the director of the strategic solutions team at Savient. Have been in this area for about 16 years now. Identity has been my initial bread and butter. There was a time in 2015 when I thought identity was plateauing. There's not much to do in it. So I kind of moved into security space. I was part of Symantec. So I started my journey as RSA, then Symantec, worked in some consulting companies like Optiv and things like that. But more recently, Okta and Microsoft. I was a product owner at Microsoft as well before I joined Savient. And now I'm in Savient about 3 years now. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. Hopefully we'll not bore you today. Thank you. Yeah, and then there is Andrew on the call as well. Andrew, if you want to come off mic and let's see if the AV is working.
Yes, sir. So this is testing the AV. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Roger that. So Andrew Welchel, solutions engineering on the for federal. Although I do support some commercial customers as well. Been at Savient for 4+ years, and also RSA and Okta before that. So definitely a strong focus on identity and security in general and cloud. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Andrew. So can go to the next slide. All right. So we cannot talk about identity without talking about AI, right? So this is going to be an interactive session. If you didn't sign up for it, I'm so sorry. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to start with one of you. Someone want to tell me what identity means to you in your organization? Who wants to go first? Go for it.
Yeah, so basically any entity that has an account, right? So any whether it's a service account or a user account, anything that has access to systems, data, or resources within your enterprise.
That is an excellent explanation. Anyone else want to take a stab at what an identity is? All right.
It's nothing, but I'm joking. Like identifying yourself, like your access and everything is identity.
Thank you, Shiva. So you heard two very distinct explanation or definition for identity. So if you ask 10 folks, they're going to give you 10 explanation, but all of them are right. It is different for different enterprises. It's mainly because it's a complex landscape to navigate. So when I think about identity, it is like a family reunion, right? You plan for a family reunion and you would have folks show up with your digital twin, couple of bots, and it accompanied by few service accounts and service principals to throw in, and a cousin that you have never known existed. So that's how identity is today in an enterprise. So it has grown so much, and we're going to talk about how we're going to manage these identities in an enterprise world. So I think we clicked the quite few extra space bars, and you're showing the tagline that spreadsheets are already losing. So quick question, how many of you are working on an IAM program in this room? Anyone working in an IAM program? All right, see one hand. Anybody else? All right. Anyone know about a process called entitlement certification or access certification? All right, thank you. Good. Anyone using spreadsheets for that? All right. So I know few companies that still rely on spreadsheets to do access validation, access certification. So if you're doing that, you would not be able to match up with the AI solutions that is out there, right? So that the whole point is when you partner with AI solutions, and if you are still relying on an IAM solution that is legacy, not mentioning any tools, but if you're using Excel spreadsheets, even to upload some information to your IAM solution, that's not the right approach. We can go to the next one. Okay, so don't press the space yet. We're going to make it fun, right? So we talked about identity. So there is this question. If you answer this right, you can come and pick up a t-shirt of your choice from here. So how many seconds does it take for a brute force attack to compromise a weak cloud password? You guys are not that close. Yeah, I'll give 23. Who said 23? There you go. Pick up your t-shirts. Go ahead. It's the answer is, I think, 17 seconds something. Go ahead. Let's see. Even I don't remember. Yeah, 17 seconds. Go ahead. You can pick a t-shirt after this. All right. So why am I saying this? It takes 17 seconds. Just let it, set in, right? 17 seconds, someone can guess your password and access your environment. So now you should understand how critical your identity and access management program should be for your enterprise based on this information. All right. Yeah, Shankar, I'm going to have you refer to UK National Cybersecurity Center and get that answer. All right. Yeah. Yeah, we can go to the next one. Okay. So I want to, if the idea is to make sure you learn something today that you don't know, right? So this slide is to kind of explain the concept I started with, how complex identity is. So everyone has an identity. Everything has an identity. It can be a physical, it can be a digital. And you see all these things that is listed over here. They all have identities, right? So that is the identity challenge an enterprise faces today, right? So that is the identity challenge. Now, think about the next set of challenges. All these identity need to have what? Access. All these identities need to have access to something to do the day-to-day jobs. So your application would need access to your database, APIs. Your friend end needs access to a few other systems. You would have clusters that's going to talk to each other, right? So all this now started making a very simple solution, right? Looks very simple to manage. All right. I'm glad nobody said yes. It is a complex solution to manage. So that's the identity challenge. That the identity challenge includes the access challenge. And I would ask a simple question. How many of you have a display in your elevators in your work building, right? In your workplace? You do? All right. Do you know if that display has an identity? Are you in that cybersecurity field? All right. So not so surprisingly, I have seen folks who manage cybersecurity for that building or that company has told me they are not aware of that identity. They are not aware that that is connected to the network. A vendor would walk in, install that IoT device, connect it to their network, and give them a console access to manage the displays that is coming onto that device. So those are the type of challenges that we face today. All right, we have this explosion of identities, and what has resulted is with some really awesome companies that has come up with solutions to tackle these problems. So you all have heard about things like PAM, privileged access management, GRC tools, third-party management, IGA tools. If anybody wants me to go in detail of what all these tools are, more than happy to do it. But these are all separate tools that exist in enterprises today, mostly on-prem. And why is that a problem? That you have a PAM solution, GRC solution, third party? Think of yourself as an end user who needs access to do your job. You need to learn about an IGA solution. You need to understand a PAM solution. You need to make sure you're connected to a GRC solution so you're not requesting access that in violation of any kind of segregation of duties or anything like that. And definitely you need to have IGA solution. So as an end user, and I have seen companies use ITSM tools for access provisioning. Yes, that still happens, right? So they use ITSM as an IGA solution. So an end user have to learn all these different tools. Now, how many app owners are here? How many of you identify as app owners? Anyone? That you're responsible? All right, so wrong crowd. Okay. So if you, yeah, as an app owner, they are asked by an IAM team or a cybersecurity team to do integrations to these 4 or 5 systems. Imagine you have 2,000 or 5,000 applications. At the very least, you need to integrate all your critical applications into these security tools. That itself is a full-time job for the app team to integrate with different tools and give all that information. So then we have the most fun crew. I'm pretty sure I'll find at least few here. Do we have any auditors here? There you go. I knew there is at least one. So how is it? Like, isn't it easy when they say that go connect to this 10 systems and get the information you need to audit this, right? So that's a reality, right? Everybody has to go. Auditors are given access to different system. Oh, you wanted to know who approved this access when? You go look at this system and pull that information. Okay, I need to know who approved this privileged access. Oh, for that, you need to go look at a different system. So that happens quite often. So it's a lot of time that auditors spend on this. Approvers. So which means, going back to certification campaigns, quick overview for folks who doesn't know what a certification campaign is. In enterprises, there is an annual or biannual campaign which is sent to their managers or entitlement owners to say that they need this access to do their job. It's as simple as that, right? So for them to approve this, they have to connect to multiple systems and do these approvals. There is not a single system that is approval for GRC or SOD violations or PAM. All right, we can go to next. Now, all right. So coming back to compliance, everybody knows about compliance, governance, GRC stuff. Okay, so there are a ton of regulations that we all have to follow. If you're in an enterprise, if you are in financial sector, if you are in government sector, if you have to be compliant with certain regulations. And let me ask you this question. Has anyone gone through the process of making sure your systems are compliant and then a next version of that compliance regulations comes out, right? Yeah, that really happens, right? So once you work on a compliance regulation, the next version is ready for you. So imagine you are running an IGA system on-prem, which everybody is scared to do an update because they don't know how the upgrade is going to go through, right? you are still stuck with the old compliance policies engraved into the system. And think about this from a global scale. So if you're just dealing with one country, that's okay. But you have to make sure if you're dealing with multiple countries, all these countries have their own regulations. And you need to make sure that all these compliance regulations are updated in the tool that you're using. All right, we can go to the next. So I gave you a ton of challenges, right? A lot of challenges. Sounds like a very bad situation. It's not. So with the tools that is out in the market, legacy tools, on-prem tools, it's pretty much like a knight fighting a drone war. It's not the same game that we are going to play. It's an entirely different game, a different scenario that we are dealing with the innovations that is happening with AI. So give you very few examples. For the folks who are working in an IAM program, how many of you know about the most fun approve all option? Anyone heard of that? All right. So I'll explain this. Due to various regulatory requirements, you have to do certification of access that everybody has in that company. This becomes sometimes a little bit challenging because people managers doesn't want to spend much time doing the approval one by one, reading all these entitlements and saying, yeah, this person needs this access, this person does not need the access. So they started complaining and tools started giving the option, said, hey, you know what? We're going to make the certification campaign easy for you. You will have an approve all button. You can go approve every entitlement for that employee. That is a reality. Some tools do provide that option. While we are dealing with an AI-driven attack vector, which has automated inspection and privilege escalation. So if the manager is approving a privileged access for someone who has not even used that privileged access in a long time, that access is going to stay there, and some AI tool is going to come in and snoop in that access and do things that you don't want to be done. Policies. So when you onboard an application, again, I'm just explaining that a little bit. When you have an IAM tool, you integrate with endpoints or target applications so that you can automatically pull in entitlements. You can provision access, you can deprovision access. So that once that integration happens, you can also set some policy saying that if someone has XYZ access, they should not have this access. The classic example everybody talks about is you cannot have access to generate an invoice and approve an invoice and pay the invoice, right? So that's a separation of duty or segregation of duty violation. So for me, what resonates to most IT folks is if you open a change, you should not be able to approve it. As simple as that. So think about that from that perspective. If you have old policies set, and if you're pulling in new data, new entitlements, new capabilities of cloud applications and SaaS applications, those policies are not automatically updated in the system. That is a challenge. And now we are dealing with 10,000 plus entitlements per employee. So on an average, do you think that data is right? Does each one of you at your workplace has 10,000 plus entitlements? You might be surprised. Go look at your systems, look at your identity, and you will have access to a ton of systems. Yep. You have access to your payroll system. You have access to your HR system. You have access to log into your machine. You have access to your email. You are part of distribution groups. You are part of different groups that give access to different things. So when you map all those things, you would have a ton of access that you didn't know existed. So you need to manage that. Now, going back to the fun audit example, when the yearly audit happens, or or a quarterly audit happens, they have to go look at spreadsheets and say, when was this provided, who provided this access, why, capture all those examples, and then present it. And internal auditors are the ones who will scramble at that time because they need to make sure that the external audit is a success. So it's a challenge when it comes to the explosion of identities. Data shows that the machine identities now outnumber human identities 45-1. So that is interesting data. So we have more non-human identities than human identities that exist in our systems today. So just like I mentioned before, we are playing a completely different game with the AI tools out there today. So this is more of the governance challenges that we face. Some of these things I think I covered. The approval. So when you do an access campaign, you want folks to look at everything, read what access each employee has, and a successful campaign would result in some type of revokes. But data shows that only 1 to 2% of revokes on sensitive or critical access. That's not, I wouldn't call it a successful certification campaign if your revokes rates are that low. The other issue that we are facing is poor quality of data. Data quality is critical for any project, especially for identity projects. You need to make sure that any data that you pull in, if you are still pulling in entitlement data from a spreadsheet, if you have a manual process, anything that you do manually has tendency to have mistakes or errors. And that data quality is going to reflect in that IAM system. And that would reflect the recommendations it's going to give for approval or rejection. I have lived through the third problem, so that's so near to me. 60% of entitlement roles do not have proper description. So what that means is when you do a access request or a certification campaign, you are expecting the line of business managers to be AWS entitlement experts. That is an unrealistic expectation that we put during the certification campaign. These entitlement descriptions need to be business friendly, easy enough for managers to understand what they're approving or rejecting. So how do I relate to this problem is you walk into a library, right? And 60% of books don't have a cover. That is the problem, right? And you tell them that you need to pick these books or don't pick these books. So what are the options? They have to open the book, now do certain analysis to find out what that book is. Same thing. You are expecting the manager to reach out to a support team or that application owner to understand what does this access do, or why do my team member needs this access. So it is a very difficult problem that our tool is solving. We'll see some. Hello. All right, I'm not gonna hook this up, but hopefully you guys can hear me okay. All right. So we talked about non-human identities, and we want to talk about the limited visibility of security postures and access to data. So if you're not certifying the access to your critical data, you're You're not able to hear. All right. You guys okay? Can you guys hear me at the back? Okay. All right. Thanks. Yep, we can go to the next. So this may be the only slide that I'm going to touch on what Savient does. I wanted you to walk away from some of the real life challenges an IAM program has. Savient is the only company that is out there that gives you a converged solution that includes a PAM, an IGA system, an SOD system. All those systems that I talked about comes in a single package SaaS solution. So it actually solves all those problems for you. And that's all I'm going to talk about. So I've spent a lot of time as a IAM director running some programs. So if you ever get into an IAM program, and I want you to have these simple steps taken care, right, in your organization. Get your foundation right. Everybody has MFA? All right, a lot of notes. Thank you. So when you say MFA, are you talking about the MFA when you log into your laptop? All right, there you go. That's important too. So a lot of companies do the checkbox of MFA by saying that when you log in the morning to your end user device, I have to put in a token or a code or something, a push notification, whatever it is, and I am in. And that's my MFA. That's not enough, right? Your critical applications, your business critical applications, be it inside the network, outside the network, require MFA. So that is a new norm right now. So I would highly recommend, if you don't have that enabled, go for it. Second is having clean data, be it entitlement or any projects, you need to have clean data. I did explain the criticality of that. Basic roles. How many of you are familiar with the concept of birthright access? All right, few hands. So when someone joins a company, and if you can define the fundamental access they need to have to start their job, you need to have those entitlements clubbed together and create a role and have that available. I'm not talking about role mining and doing advanced role engineering or anything like that. Just get your basic roles ready. So when someone joins, they're not going to wait for 2 weeks or 2 months to get all the access they need to do their job and be productive. The next phase I would suggest is to automate the basics. The basic means integrate your IAM system with an HR system. What does that mean to you? So when someone joins, the HR system gets triggered. It will trigger some automation in the IAM system to trigger a creation of identity and access they need to do their job. So I'll just move on fast on this one because we are running out of time. So govern what matters, do targeted certification, concept of movers. So if someone is moving from one department to another department, and if they need, it actually triggers a certification campaign so you can actually revoke access. They no longer need to do their job. Segregation of duties, we will get into a demo on that one. Privileged access management, I did talk a little bit about it. Basically, protect your privileged access, protect your keys and secrets. Once you're done with all these things, then you can unleash the power of AI in the tools that you use. So that is a fundamental approach I would suggest. Ravi, if you can move to. All right. Oh, all right. That was I hope no one saw that question. What percentage of organizations have over 1,000 sensitive files open to every employee? Alexia, you need to get this right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go to the anyone wants to guess the answer? Yeah, yeah. All right. Let's go to the answer. 21%. And the source of information is from Veronis. Yep. Yeah. And 10% of companies have over 1 million files open to all. So the criticality of why you need an IAM program. All right, let's go to next. All right. Anthony, Andrew, you're going to take over from here. Thank you.
Yep. You want to go ahead and start the take or roll the tape, as they say?
Yep. You're good to go.
Yeah.
We have 10 minutes,
Very
Andrew.
good. Can you hear me okay, Robbie?
Yeah, we
Mike,
can hear you.
excellent. So what you're watching here is an exercise in certifications. You'll notice two things that are really important. Certifications need to be both easy to do, and they need to both be easy to make choices and decisions on. Because what we certainly find as you talk to people who do this, the people who own this process, you're going to run into scenarios that people will just they'll click yes, right? And what we have see the statistics on is if you don't have those capabilities, like you saw just a second ago, with those smart certifications, which can provide the information on high risk and low risk very easily, you're going to have a low percentage of revocations. And that's what we're finding actually out in the field is the more data you can provide, such as information like you're seeing here on the right-hand side, that you're going to get a much higher revocation rate, which is good. It means that you're actually pulling the data out or pulling the access out from the people who really don't need it. And it's not that you're creating any conflict or you're creating any friction, because you're just pulling that access away from people who really don't need it anymore. And certainly if you ask them, they would certainly say, hey, yeah, I don't need that anymore. It's not my job role. And that's really complete. So what you're also seeing here is important. Is this now, if you once you made that decision of, hey, you picked the pulled away the groups that are easy to pull to click yes on and the easy to click no on. Now you have the second task, which is to determine how do I quickly make decisions on the rest of it. And what you're seeing here is in the reds and the yellows is very good and quick indicators of ones you should click yes and no based off that risk. And Kitson did talk about AI and that type thing. And what you'll notice here is, and I won't go into the actual model, but it is using a cluster-based AI machine learning model, which is basically kind of like a profiling that you see on Netflix to make sure and quickly identify those buckets for high and low risk. I'll pause there. I think our video is done, and you can go to the next slide, Kitson. Excellent. Oh, wait, it's you'll have to pause and go back out. It's actually restarting. Yep, there you go. So our next element we're going to highlight is this concept of separation and duties. This is just another very quick, short walkthrough of some key elements of it. What you'll also notice on this is also pulling out some information with regards to the actual Savient platform. But the way it's doing this is you've heard terms like MCP server and agentic AI. So what we're actually doing is actually putting a MCP server in front of Savient. And by doing that, we're funneling out data into another platform such we can do this visualization very easily and in a quick way. Because a lot of times the way our brains work, we can visually see things that are obvious, right? That sometimes are hard to parse out via data. And what we're wanting to do here is find the bad things fast, right? And so in this case, we're actually want to answer that question: how do we disable accounts and do that quickly for those users that do not need access anymore? So I'll pause and back to you, Kitson.
Thank you, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys are like, what the hell are these guys talking about, right? It's simple. I mean, we're trying to kind of, I remember 10, 15 years ago, the toughest conversation I used to have was, explaining why identity governance is important, right? It's a journey, right? It's a big we put it as a badge, but it's really not, right? It's a governance. It's a multi-year story for you. Like Kitson was talking about, compliance standards change, your regulatory needs change, and every time, every year, it's a full circle, right? You rinse and repeat and keep going doing things. But threat actors are not waiting for you to get your governance in together, right? And that's the bridge, or that's the gap we're trying to bridge, right? Basically between governance and security. And going back to my toughest conversation I used to have with CISOs and CIOs was, I don't have budget for identity, right? I only have budget for security. And it made sense 10, 15 years ago, because at the time it was VPNs, firewalls, endpoints, things like that. Mobile devices were not an explosion. We didn't have a lot of SaaS apps. So it made sense for them to allocate that budget into security, because that's where most threat exists, risk and threat exists. But these days, with the cloud apps increasing, with a lot of workloads, you must have heard all these buzzwords: workloads, machine identities, service principals. People who, if you're here, Microsoft people here, there's so many things that you have to govern and make sure, you're in compliance, and you're always passing your audits, hopefully, right? And above and all that, knowing what you don't know, right? That's the biggest piece of this whole puzzle. Traditionally, you had applications, we had application owners, and that's the reason why Kitson talked about it. How many of you are, have onboard an application? Doesn't matter if you have onboard application or not. You have dealt with an application owner or someone who was handling an application, whether it's ops side, support ticket side, someone who takes the calls every day, every minute, kind of fixing things for you. Someone doesn't have an access to something. Application onboarding is a very important piece of this puzzle, because otherwise, how would you know what you don't know, right? And that's where we're trying to firstly, make sure you're, I don't know if it's a word, rapidizing the application onboarding, because the most critical applications that you have in your organizations, the usual suspects, are like your Active Directories, your Entras, your Epics, your AWS, right? And let's talk about AWS and Microsoft as a separate section altogether. But most of these applications that you see here are the critical applications, and also are the biggest ones that our customers are having an issue with. Or I shouldn't say issue, it's a bad word maybe, but are having a lengthy onboarding times, right? The SLAs are really high, 2-3 weeks, if they get to it at some point, right? 2-3 weeks, or sometimes it takes months. Like if you take like an SAP, I don't know who amongst who are all working financials, but SAP or Oracle, they take months and years of, and then they suddenly change from, oh, you know what, we're moving from on-prem to cloud, or we're changing our policies, we're changing our, different kinds of, definitions, and you have to reinitiate all of that. So to help you with that and bridge that gap, Savient obviously has about 500 plus applications that we have in the marketplace that you can easily import, and making it easy for you, right? So you don't have to go develop code. What you can focus on, again, we're not trying to eliminate positions here, right? It's more about helping or improving the agility for people who already have, hired to do this job, and make it easier for them, so they don't get frustrated in terms of onboarding applications, but making it easier for them to onboard them, so they can focus on governing and actually focusing on analyst type of things, where they can say, you know what, now I have quickly onboard SAP in a day or two. Can I take a look at the actual data itself and see what the mismatches are? Where are my threats? Where are my risks, etc. Right? Let's go next one. So AI, it's a buzzword now. It was zero trust a few years ago. Play the video, right? So we have also a co-pilot in Savvy, what we call Savvy. It's a tongue-in-cheek name now for Savient. But you can see that now we are onboarding an application. It's a LLM, where it's a chat-based, it's a conversational language, simple English types. So you can just say that, you know what, I want to bring all accounts and entitlements into Savient from Zendesk, right? That's what's going on here. AI goes out and actually checks at what are, based on the reference document that you provided, it looks at what are the things that you have to import, and it all automatically gives you the form that you want to fill in. All you have to do is plug in the credentials that are required for the application, right? Client secrets. And boom, right? It automatically takes care of things that you want to import automatically, right? Whereas traditionally we had application owners and sitting through and looking at the data. Oh, what data do I have to bring in? How do I manipulate the data? There's a comma there. Someone has an Irish name. There's an apostrophe there that I have to kind of remove, things like that. that are causing a lot of data mismatches and hence raising threats. All of that will be taken care of the Savvy Copilot, right? And there's something that, again, because we're talking about AI, that's the next gen identity or application onboarding, right? Let's go to the next slide. So, all right, let's blow on the full slide, right? So, where are the investments going with the intelligent app onboarding and with the time check, real quick? Okay, I'll go quick here, right? Where are the investments going for most identity vendors out there, and where we have already made those strides, right? Savient has already made those strides. Less than 20% apps remain ungoverned right now with the paranoia about, oh, I have 900 applications, and organizations are saying, you know what, I'll just onboard 20 applications, and we'll leave the other 82 to the God, right? Like because 20 are the most critical applications, I don't care about the other applications. So we are trying to kind of fast track that and improve agility for organizations and fear less about onboarding applications. And that's where we are taking our approach of the agentic AI-based integration. The one I showed you before is actually that's the backend function of the Savvy Copilot. We're also using the LLM-powered onboarding. We just saw a demo of that, right? A quick video of that. And then onboarding as a code. We're also using Terraforms and things like that. Imagine a lot of applications are on-prem applications which use CSV files today. You know, a lot of don't have a database connectivity. Take your mainframe, for instance. It doesn't have a direct API, right? It doesn't have a direct connection. But we are using things like Terraforms and things like that to automate that process as well. So it's making it easy for app owners. So imagine a world where IT doesn't have to worry about onboarding applications. Imagine a world an app owner can themselves go into the tool and onboard themselves, right? Quick time to value there. Let's go next one. So just as the next generation, we talked about MCP, right? So now with the explosion of AI and AI agents and hosts, and there's so much jargon thrown around that, including how people get access to those clients, whether we're secure or not, it becomes important to normalize the data, right? Is there a common stage where we can connect our AI systems to our enterprise data safely, right? And not just safely, what amount of information through our AI can we expose to other software vendors that you might have? For instance, we are partnered with CrowdStrike, right? CrowdStrike is also an MCP server. How many of you, just to raise of hands, understand what an MCP is? Perfect. Yeah, I didn't expect any less of you. It's a model context protocol. It basically just kind of keeping it high level maintains the context of your whatever your operation that you're trying your AI to do, right? And it kind of has its own language. So what we're doing is think of AI or LLM as our Savient, right? That's the one that's on the left side. In the middle, we have the MCP server. We're partnering with AWS for that. We have the MCP server in the middle, which actually normalizes the language, right? So common language for agents and systems. And then we also use their universal open standard, which basically helps us to onboard enterprise data for our customers, right, onto the MCP. That way, we are speaking the same language, and the amount of data that's exposed is controlled. You're not exposing a lot of data to the external world. And on the same MCP, we'll have like CrowdStrike or a Wiz, and then you get more context-driven data for your identity security, right? You're importing CrowdStrike signals, log files, etc., or from Wiz, and then painting the full picture as to where your security threats are, what your risks are, and what are identities, and how you want to control them, and how do you manage their access. So I know I spoke a lot. Hopefully it made some sense, but you had a question? Yeah, I was going to ask. Yeah, I was going to do Q&A for sure.
So I work with onboarding and helping with Epic for my clients, and so I wanted to know how is it Savient help with is it like working with Better Health with like security accesses, or is it installing on the computer like what I would do?
Right.
Like
That's a great question. So we are helping on the former part, right? We are actually former. We're helping organizations integrate with Epic, so to make sure you're governing the access to Epic. It's not on your app or anything like that. We still go to the governance level of the access, who has access to the app, how they can access the health records and things like that. But at the ground level, with the Epic integration, we are going that route, right? So yeah, good question. Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, yeah. I think I kind of covered most of it. Just to kind of summarize, again, going back to my initial statement of what the hell this guy's talking about, is reducing the sprawl with discovery of your identities, application access, going across your board, across the board, finding who your identities are, what applications you have access or they have access to, and what all access they have, whether they should have it or not, and do they have it at the right time when they need it, right? And then transforming that access governance with intelligent recommendation. That's the one that Kitson was talking about, or Andrew was talking about, where you can do certifications. You can get to, one of the biggest problems is managers rubber stamping access these days, right? Approve all, reject all, right? And that's causing a lot of security concerns because a manager who is really, fatigued is actually going and rubber stamping it and not even looking at the access data. So the intelligent recommendations will provide you with taking away the noise and giving only the important data to the managers. That way they are not less fatigued, they're more interested to the certifications, and that way you're reducing the risk. Actually, one of the data I want to give is after our customers have started adopting Savient, we have had customers, big customers, 600,000 users plus customers who's told us that the amount of rejections have gone up by 60%, right? Which tells a lot about the problems we have. And then maximizing AI investments in securing and governing AI identities. It's not just about AI for security, also security for AI, right? Making sure we proper governance and how people are authorized to access AI agents. Coming into the risk remediation, quick application access risk remediation through our ISPM, or Identity Security Posture Management, the black screen not the black screen, but the dark mode screen that Andrew was talking about, where we can quickly get to you, because back in the day we had reports which were like 1 million rows of data that someone has to go through. If they ever get to it, be able to track where the issues are, right? But now with ISPM, we can easily bring you to the top 10 findings, or from a security posture standpoint, where your gaps are and how do you remediate that. Transform and improve effectiveness of your access governance controls. We talked about it at length already. And then capitalizing on ERP migrations like Epic, SAP, right? Workday is going in that direction as well, helping you with how we can access model that data. You have T codes, you have a lot of jargon that end users don't understand. If I have to request an access, I don't know what access I have to request in SAP. Helping you with entitlement descriptions, helping you with access modeling in terms of peer group analysis. How many people in the same team have access to the same access, and can we recommend that to a person, right? Things like that. So again, calling back to my statement about identity is a journey. It is a journey. Still, it is a journey, right? Because it's an every year thing. It's a partnership now, right? Whenever we sell Savient to any customer, it's a partnership. It's a multi-year partnership. Hopefully, we grow with them, right, with their needs, but also helping them with day one value, where we can quickly identify what the threats are and help them remediate them, right? So, thank you. Any questions?
Hi, my name is Girish. Hearing about your presentation, it came to my mind. So, with the current situation with insider threat risk and North Korea DPRK situation, where you have deepfake folks joining remotely and remote work also in place, what kind of protection or anomalies can Savient identified with identities there, right?
So one of the biggest things that our organizations have taken advantage of, or the customers who have adopted Savient have taken care of, is I'm giving you some basic examples here, right? The possibilities are limitless. Outlier access or out-of-band access, right? As we talked about remote users. How many of you understand what an outlier access is? Just show of hands, right? And out-of-band access. So, sorry? Yeah, out-of-band access. So outlier access, just by definition, is Ravi has access to a particular application, right? Am I over-provisioned or under-provisioned to that particular application compared to my peer group, right? People who report to the same manager, or people who are from the same location, people who are in the same department or cost center, how am I stacked against them, right? And making sure that we are compliant based on, kind of truing up that data, right? So Savient can quickly determine, with the ISPM we talked about, we already had it before. With the ISPM, we have better visualization of it, where we can actually bring that to forth very quickly, saying that, hey, Ravi has access to the application and he's over-provisioned compared to other 10 people in his team. He has a lot more access. or privileged access, or has a service account that he owns. Things like that can bring that to the forth, and we can quickly remediate them, like I said, instead of going through long reports of that, right? In the same way, out-of-band access. I have a friend in Active Directory. He can quickly provision me to an admin group or a service account, right? And hasn't gone through the policy defined by Savient or defined by the business. And Savient can quickly detect that and say that, you know what, Ravi has gone under the table to get his access instead of going through the policy or the form or the access request console or certification to get that access. So Savient can bring that to the fore as well. And above and beyond that, we are also access modeling, right, based on what we know already. Like, for example, AWS or Microsoft workloads. We're partnered with AWS. One of the biggest challenges customers have today is, how does a user have access to a particular EC2 server? How do they have access to a particular S3 bucket, right? And that trail is missing because you have an identity, you have accounts, and AWS doesn't follow the identity norms. In general, they have their own identity model, right? And they have the roles and the groups that are completely different. They have their identity center, and then they have IAM, right? So we have to make sure, and the organizations are having tough time managing that across the board, right? And that's where we are actually with the ISPM, we are able to visualize that. And I wish we had that video as well, but we didn't. Next time I'll remember that. But basically, we can give you the full picture of how Ravi got access to an EC2 server based on all the data that we have collected across the board, right? That's one of the biggest importance of Savient, is because we have the visibility across the applications or cross-application data, so we can easily detect how a user got access to that particular EC2 instance, right? So again, I'm sure I gave some cliche examples, but they are important examples, but there are more like that we can quickly help you with. Yeah. Okay.